I've got a couple of kettlebells, a light one, a heavy one, and I'm going to show you rotation that will blow your mind. How many times have you thought about increasing your rotation through strike? Most of the time, that's where golfers are really trying to improve either their hip turn or their chest turn in an effort to get the ball going further. I have a lot of golfers that come on the mat that believe hip turn comes from the middle. Unfortunately, hip turn doesn't come from the middle, it comes from the legs, but I've talked about that at great length. But today, what I want to talk to you about is how you obtain hip turn from loading your shoulders. I've got two lady golfers on the thumbnail that are excessively open through strike and have got a lovely big fullness in backswing rotation. What we see in the ladies' game more than the guy game is a real sympathetic nature of how the golfers move to the weight the golf club is. Now, we know that ladies' swing speeds are slower, but what we actually see are more dynamic moves with ladies than we do with guys. I'm going to show you why that is. And what I mean by sympathetic is it always has the look with the ladies' game that the golf club is almost swinging them. We see the golf club moving through, a bit like a junior. We sort of see a golf club swinging through, and then we sort of see the feet very quiet. We see this massive unravel, and then we see them move up into the finish. There's a reason for that. In the pull phase of the golf swing, the ladies are having to stabilize their lower half more than the guys. Slightly weaker with upper body strength. Their upper body is having to get the club moving before they can really start to unravel. Now, you would think that if we were stabilizing the motion at the top and we weren't moving as much and we were getting the golf club moving first and then we started to get hip rotation, you would think that that process would slow down the pelvis. But I want to pose you a question that when we're moving this golf club, are we trying to pull the golf club through strike, or are we trying to push the golf club through strike? Because if I lift my hand up and I push my hand to the side or to the left, target side of my trail shoulder, that golf club becomes a push. If my hand is to the right of my right shoulder, trail shoulder, it then becomes a pull through strike. This pull through strike actually causes the body at impact to start to stall out, club swing, and then we go up. And I tell you who's really, really big with this, and that's Rory. We see that body stalling out and almost re-rotating on the way through as he orders his arms up. So I've got a couple of kettlebells here that are really going to highlight the influence on weight. And if you've watched enough of my videos, I've talked at great length about the weight of the golf club being so influential on how you can encourage rotation. I believe that the heavier the golf club is, within reason, the more it will encourage you to rotate, not discourage you to rotate. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the light kettlebell. This is 8 kilograms. This one is 20 kilograms. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start swinging this kettlebell back and through. And because it's quite light, I can really start to fire myself on the way down to try and turn through the shot. Now, at the bottom, when the weight swings, that moment that that kettlebell swings down here, because it's only 8 kilograms, and I'm a bit of a man mountain, not, because I've got a reasonable amount of strength, my shoulders and my body can actually cope with the unload and the uncoordinated unload of the weight without fear of injuring me. Now, when I go from 8 kilograms and I go to 20 kilograms, that no longer becomes the case. When I now start to swing this kettlebell, what I need to have is some coordination that makes me feel like I can move with the weight. Because down at the bottom, what I don't want to have is this feeling that the weight itself is all out on its own. And so as I start swinging it, what I'm going to need to do is start to oppose the force and the weight the kettlebell swinging in. So if I swing the kettlebell to the right with 20 kilos in it, and I use my left foot to push off to the right, the kettlebell has got so much weight in it that I'm off down the street. So all of a sudden, to get the kettlebell swinging to the right, I do need a little push off with my left foot, but then I need a right foot to stabilize me. So I can actually get the weight swinging, the foot opposing, and the body opening. Now as I start to pull the kettlebell down, now I need to, as I pull it, harmonize, and we'll put it down because it's heavy. I need to harmonize the opening of the hip through the feet, the pulling of the kettlebell. So down at the bottom, the kettlebell and my chest are actually starting to move together. And this is purely the handle, chest, moving around in harmony. Of course, with the golf club, we have some set and some unset. So the handle travel is actually much, much slower than the club head travel because of the set and the unset of the golf club. So when you're doing this drill, all you're really starting to get a great sense of is the orientation your handle needs to have with your trunk. But because once I get the weight moving, now all of a sudden the feet are fired up and I'm actually moving with the weight. And that weight is actually helping me organize myself when I pull the weight, as opposed to the light one where I can just think about the rotation. I just try and rotate as hard as I can, and it just puts me out of order, out of sequence. And so when we pick the weight back up, we use the feet a bit more effectively. You can see through strike here, I'm every bit as opened up, but everything feels like it's happening way slower. But then when I come to have the golf club, out of breath, and now I start to feel the same thing. Obviously the club feels incredibly light, but I now really start to get a great sensation of how my feet can work. We can start to feel my feet working in a very different order and really allow me to open myself up. But it's making me feel in the pull phase how my chest, my lower half, all starts to work together so that I feel more organized down at strike, and the club and me are rotating around together. So if you can, it doesn't have to be a kettlebell, it doesn't have to be as extreme as those two, but it was there to show you that more weight. If you're tired of paying too much for premium leather golf gloves, do head over and check out my channel sponsor, GX Golf Gloves. These gloves are trusted by elite, amateurs and tour players alike. Use my code, GOODCOACHING, to receive 10% on your next order. We'll organise this as golfers. Less weight allows us to get away with things, allows us to manipulate the golf club into strike because it's light. Up the weight, the more authentic the movement needs to be. A couple of kettlebells, go as light as you can, go as heavy as you can. Make sure you're warmed up. Don't do this cold December morning. Get yourself warmed up first and then start to have a little go at that and film it. Hopefully that's been insightful to give you a really good understanding why the ladies game really offers up some extreme hip rotations more than we see necessarily in the men's game. I hope you've enjoyed that. Thanks so much for watching. And that, my friends, is good coaching.